Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It has been quite a long time since I've done a manga haul, especially with more or less the past few videos that I've been posting here. I haven't really been focused on collecting manga for the past few months for various reasons. I've been sort of jumping around to different hobbies, so to speak. Retro gaming has sort of, in a way, pretty much piqued my interest the most. So any manga that I've been purchasing has been done in very small quantities for the past few months, since the last haul video that I put out. But anyways, welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is me once again, Old Shaman here, and today I'm about to show you guys some really interesting manga pickups for the month of June, and hopefully maybe get some discussion going, some talk about maybe some of the things that I've recently picked up, and get a discussion going, so to speak. So, unfortunately, these are all sort of out of order. I didn't really know a good way of showing you guys all this, so please excuse the guerrilla style cinematography. So, first off we have is the Psychic Girl. Now, I was recommended this this particular manga by one of the people on the Manga Collectors subreddit. I'm a huge Ikigami fan, and for those of you who aren't familiar who Ikigami is, he's done various works like Sanctuary, Strain, Wounded Man, pretty much all the OG classic 90s and 80s Viz series that were being brought over here to the States. Viz pretty much caught on to that relatively quickly, and they did want to bring his work over here so that way it could get serialized. Now, while I have not read this yet, I've heard some pretty good things about it. A lot of people say that the art style is very good. Again, it is peak Ikigami work. However, I do hear that the story sort of tends to drag on a little bit too much, and it's only a 3-volume series, so here we have is volume 1. And these are the perfect collection variants. There are 2 different versions that you can actually buy of this manga. There's a 4-volume series, which you can also get, which is just standard graphic novels. But I do believe that they are they're not hardcover, but they are sort of like a sturdier spine, more so than these, because these are more of a floppy than anything else. The other ones are more of like a book, if that makes any sense, but they're not hardcovers, so I don't really know how to describe it. Next is Volume 2, which, again, these covers are pretty cool. So it does a fine job of kind of showcasing Ikigami and his style. It's very unique, very good style. So, and then Volume 3. Alright, and continuing with old and classic series, we have is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, Volume 5. Wow, so this series is taking forever, it seems like, to just get out. I don't know why it's taking so long. Viz knows that this series sells well, and they know that lots of people are really on the JoJo hype wagon. You would think that these volumes would come out any sooner, but unfortunately, we still gotta wait. And it'll be the long road before Part 7 ever even gets touched upon. So I'm not even worried about, dealing with Part 5 or Part 6 yet, but rather Part 7 being made 10 or 20 years down the road. Alright, next we got some old stuff. You can't have an old Shaman video without not having something that's Gekiga or Seinen or old school, but let's talk about a very interesting compilation of stories, and that is Suge's The Swamp, and that is pretty much the definition of Gekiga right there. If you are looking for a great compilation of various stories that were made during the late 60s and early 70s, and you're looking for not only just a jump start to the Gekiga demographic as well as theme, then look no further than The Swamp. The Swamp is honestly a really fantastic and really interesting compilation of various stories that are adult-themed and very unique for the time period that this particular series was being serialized as. Now, this is a drawn and quarterly release, so a lot of people don't really know about drawn and quarterly, but they handle a lot of really old school releases. For instance, again, with Suge, there's plenty of different works. Yoshiro Tatsumi, another really influenced and great person for Gekiga. Fascinating stories like A Drifting Life, Goodbye, Pushman and Other Stories, Abandon the Old in Tokyo, and again, that's just a list of few of some of the notable titles that he has created, and in all honesty, is a really, really awesome mangaka, if I do say so myself. So if you are looking to get a push for maybe that Gekiga, kind of get a feel, a jump start, and maybe possibly check to see if you might like it, look no further than Suge and Yoshiro Tatsumi, because both of those mangakas know how to create very, very great stories. Now, again, it's not for everybody. The art style, again, it's very dated. It's not something that is necessarily for everybody. The modern day theme of Gekiga, of course, being that it is sort of a alternative style of storytelling. It's not something that's really necessarily cohesive or linear, and it usually only follows about a very small portion of a story. For instance, instead of it spanning multiple volumes or being a full-scale volume, most of the stories, they don't really have any sort of link to each other, and they usually last only about 20 to 25 pages, depending, of course, on the story and how long the mangaka decides to kind of base itself on. But anyways, this is a haul video. It's not a Gekiga video, so if you guys want to know more about Gekiga, I highly suggest looking into it, look into Drawn and Quarterly, see if you guys find something that you might like and that you want to check out, because there are definitely some great titles in there. So, a Tezuka pickup for once. We haven't had really much of any Tezuka work being picked up here, but to kind of cap off my Tezuka collection, which where it stands right now is in a pretty good spot, we have his Captain Ken Volume 1. This, of course, is a out-of-print work currently as we speak. It is outsold on Amazon. You cannot buy it anywhere. I do believe there are some third-party sites that do still have it in stock, but most of them do not carry it anymore. And following that, to close it off, we have his Captain Ken Volume 2. Have not read this yet. I've heard some mixed things about it, and in all honesty, I don't know if it will be good or not. Again, I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, mostly being a little bit more towards the negative side, but it's a Tezuka work, and I like to give a fair judgment with Tezuka because a lot of his work is very harshly sort of criticized in today's current market because people just don't like the art style, and I don't understand where they get that basis from, but for whatever reason, they just do not like old looking manga. So anyways, Tezuka will always be sort of downvoted as this manga god, or people will try to dethrone him by saying Go Nagai is better than Osamu Tezuka, or just say some asinine comment like that. But you cannot trump the pioneer of manga, and not only who influenced a genre and a demographic of manga and storytelling, but also influenced the industry as a whole. You cannot deny that for a whole sole fact. That is plain and simple the reason why Tezuka is so great and so brilliant, because he was just so different and creative with a lot of his works. So I look forward to reading Captain Ken. We'll probably take a look at it here sometime in the future, and maybe even do a review. So stay tuned. All right, and coming on with the last sort of, I guess you could say, modern release is the Berserk Deluxe Edition Volume 4. Again, it's sealed. In my personal opinion, I have no desire to reopen Berserk or anything like that, because I have the single volumes, and they're all displayed on my shelf if I want to read a certain volume or a portion of the story, which for a majority of what the Master or Deluxe Editions cover, it covers Golden Age, so I'll just pop open a volume of Golden Age if I want to reread it. But I decided to double dip on the release, not just because of the fact that it is a nice hardcover release, but I would say I'm a Berserk fan. I do like the series for what it is. I don't think it is perfect. I don't think it is the best manga of all time. and I definitely wouldn't even really consider it even being in my top 10. It is very far out of that top 10 list. Maybe top 20, but I mean, even that is stretching it. And for the most part, it mainly has to do with the art style as well as the aesthetic that Kentaro Miura creates with the Berserk manga that kind of lands it in that spot of being one of the most memorable series for me. And for me to say that, I think that kind of does warrant a buy of the deluxe editions because they're a good release and the spreads are really nice, but I don't know if I plan necessarily to open them quite yet. I think it might be sort of that thing I keep on hold for the time being, at least until I decide to fully sort of realize that this is what I want to read. But anyways, that all being said, we now come to the reason why we're doing this video here today. And you all know me as someone who really just likes to buy rare, hard to find, out of print manga that not too many people know about, so that way I can preach it and share it with the world, so that way that they know of these great titles that we are about to talk about today. And I think that I do need to give this series an introduction because not many people who aren't familiar with this genre of manga, but with mech series as a whole, will really even know about what this series is. So without further ado, let's just talk about it, and that is the 5-star stories. This right here, fans, is the English release of the 5-star stories, and this is highly coveted as one of the rarest and hard to find series of manga in English, no less. Wasn't published by Viz, wasn't published by Dark Horse, wasn't published by Raijin, wasn't published in some off-brand magazine. This was published exclusively by the creator of the manga by his company Toy Press here in the United States as well as worldwide. That is impressive, needless to say, that a mangaka of the series that he's writing is actually publishing his work worldwide, so that way people are able to experience it. Very fascinating story with that. In of its own is worthy of its own video. But of course, again, we're doing a manga haul, not a discussion. So if you're interested, let me know, and then maybe we can have a discussion about it in a further video or a live stream or whatever it is that people like to do nowadays. But anyways, the 5-star stories, and we have a few volumes to get through, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. But pretty much, I want to talk to you guys just about the release. So the early release of 5-star stories is sort of in this very weird comic book style format. And as you can see here, it's pretty large. It's not something that's very small. And posing these on a shelf proved to be very difficult because of how obscure the size and also of the release. Now, they retailed for $8.99, these volumes, and again, they are very hard to describe. They are almost like a floppy or a comic book in a way, but aren't a comic book. Again, it's a manga, but the way that this release was broken up is that these volumes consist of only 80 pages, and for any of the future releases, one volume would sometimes consist of 3 of these issues, whereas some of the volumes would only consist of 2, or sometimes even 4. So very, very strange release, needless to say. So we're going to just kind of plow through it, let you guys all know what exactly we picked up. But Volume 2, and again, it's very hard to even say, but this release, you know, they use a lot of the same covers, which is a little bit disappointing, but there are some beautiful covers. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have had the chance to read this series, and I could not be more blown away by just how gorgeous some of the designs are. And not only that, but this is sort of my first impression with the mech genre. I've always known about mech. I've always sort of been interested in it, but never really fully indulged myself within mech manga or anime. For instance, Gundam, I never really bothered. Macross or Mazinger or any other mech genre or style anime or manga, I have never really bothered to even really sort of get myself involved with until now, where I had an opportunity to purchase this series for a very, very good price, and I again cannot be happier. Now, with the amount of volumes that I do have, it is still not complete. So again, we're just going to keep running through this. So volume 4, this is a brand new cover, so very, very nice. And I do believe, so the mangaka actually started out as a fashion designer, and what he did is he incorporated his designs within the series, which I thought is really cool. So, excuse me, COVID, right? Anyways, volume 6, which again continues the new line of covers. And then we come to the second release. So this one is a little bit different. This is what feels more like a trade more than anything else. It still is a floppy, but as you see, it has a spine now. So before, the spines were sort of held together by cheap paper clips. This one actually has its own binding. So it has glue and it feels nicer. It also gives you sort of a preview for the volume itself. It showcases that there are 3 volumes in this particular volume in order to kind of make up its own individual volume, which is really cool. So there's that. Again, continuing further on down the road, we have is volume 8, which some of these you'll find bagged because they are very expensive, some of these volumes, and very rare, and I want to make sure that they are preserved properly. Volume 9, continuing yet the same trend of different volume covers. We have is volume 10. Volume 11, which unfortunately is a first print original, which again, it still sort of continues that floppy design that they were using, which it is what it is, you know, but the covers are still, again, they're really cool. So it has that going for it. Volume 12, which is a little bit beat up, but, you know, for the most part, it's still held together pretty well. Next we have is volume 13, which again we start to get into a little bit more of the hard to find volume territory, and very few listings of these are found online, including on Amazon and eBay, so there's definitely something in regards to that. We have volume 14, which caps off yet another major volume. We have volume 15, which again continues the line of very unique and cool covers. We have volume 16, volume 17, and volume 18, where that one was a very hard volume to find necessarily. Volume 20, another hard to find volume, but managed to get a hold of it. And finally, we have is volume 22, which I think has to be probably one of my favorite covers because it reminds me of Lady Liberty. Very unique and very different, needless to say. A very interesting take on it. So, that all being said, that is the manga haul for June. And I can't end the video without having to talk a little bit about the 5-star stories. So, anyways, the 5-star stories is a very interesting and unique manga that is told in a very different style compared to most any other manga series out there. It's a very largely scaled series where it not only takes its focus off of certain key points in the story, for instance, different years, different eras of time of where it focuses on a central character or certain plot points. Very unique, very interesting, and I cannot talk about the series without having to mention the beautiful and awesome mech designs. If you are a fan of mech, you will only shudder in the sight of how beautiful and amazing these designs are, because in my opinion they almost look damn better than Gundam, or the stuff that comes out of Gundam, which is of course one of the most well-known mech animes and mangas out there. So if you're a fan of mech, you have not checked out the 5-star stories, I highly recommend that you guys check this series out. But of course, the ongoing question of it being out of print is an unfortunate sight. In fact, so 26 volumes of this series was released in English, and unfortunately it only covers a certain portion of the story, And even then, the series is still ongoing in Japan. It is not concluded, which means that it's still going on. It's still getting volumes being released, and has no ending in sight as of right now. Absolutely crazy that this series has been going on for so long, and it only has 15 volumes in Japan and still has no ending in sight. Absolutely crazy. This video has gone on long enough, so thank you all for staying tuned and watching this video. I do hear out your feedback, and I'm asking you guys, as a content creator here in the manga community, what here are you looking forward to seeing? Are you looking forward to seeing reviews, hauls, collection videos? What is it that you want to see me do more in the manga community to maybe reach my audience even further? If you guys have any suggestions, please leave a comment below. If you stuck with me for this long, thank you all for checking this video out. I'll have another spicy haul coming out in July, so look forward to that and stay tuned. Thank you all for watching, and as always, peace out.